Princess Lily here with the Transgirl C C, where we talk about comics, cartoons, and other awesome nerd shit. So, I'm sorry the video's late this week. Unfortunately, things around here have been a little unpredictable, and so I haven't been quite able to film, but we're here today, we're here now, we're getting this done, and today we're getting right into it and talking about Generation X from Marvel. Now, if you're wondering why I review so many Marvel comics, it's because I'm a little behind on my DC comics. We will do DC reviews here in the near future, but stick with me for now. We're going to talk about Generation X from Marvel, and the next comic we're probably going to talk about is another Marvel title. I have a lot of them. I also have a lot of DC. We're going to get into those. But before we do, let's talk about something you might have missed. Now, I don't have a visual guide or reference for you to view, but I want to suggest to you the manga Cells at Work from Kodansha Comics. It's really fun. There are like 6 or 7 issues of it out currently. It's about the daily lives of cells in your body, what they do, their daily routines, and it's a little educational too. The characters are lots of fun, and I think you'll really enjoy it if you give it a chance. Once again, that's Cells at Work, Kodansha Comics. Check it out. Really great. But back to this. Boop, boop. Right here. Generation X. Generation X is an 11-issue run, maybe 12. It's kind of hard to say, because this was also got swept up in that Marvel Legacy thing, and originally Generation X was a early or late, either an early 2000s comic or a late 90s comic, featuring Jubilee and some other younger mutants, sort of a teenage wasteland story. And it ran for like 84, 83 issues, so when Marvel Legacy happened, the numbering got all weird, so my comics go from like 1 through 10 or 1 through 11, then you have like 85 through like 89. It's really weird, and I realize I said it's like an 11-issue run, but it's really hard to... It's just canceled now, so... Guess I won't be getting any more of that. So, it's got about 11 to 14 issues, and it was really good. I really liked it, I really enjoyed it. Numbering system aside, I really hated when they changed up the numbering. It just looks really weird in my collection box. It's like, where'd all the issues go between these two? Oh, well. Doesn't matter, I suppose. So, Generation X is still the same kind of teenage wasteland story. It's a coming of age for mutants, mostly focused on the characters of Quentin Query and Jubilee. Now, Jubilee is an adult. She's been an adult for a while. She's been a vampire for a while, for at least over a decade. But, you know, for at least a decade, at the very least. At least. So, you know, it's kind of a story about these two characters and their parallels, whereas Quentin is in a place that he's uncomfortable, that he wants to be a part of. Jubilee's at a place where she's super comfortable, but is still trying to feel like she should be more accepted where she is, because she's a vampire, not a mutant anymore. I hope I'm really explaining that really well. It's like they're on the same path, but from different perspectives. Now, there are other characters and other stories. The other 2 big stories, well, the other 3 big stories, I should say, is Roxy and her need and want to become an X-Men, and Benjamin and Nathaniel, and them trying to come together into a relationship. Nathaniel kind of getting over his hang-ups about his powers. His powers are that he knows everything about a person from their touch, just by touching them. Kind of like a rogue-esque ability without the life drain and without getting their powers. The other story, which is kind of more of a side story, but also our main conclusion, is a story about Monette and her brother Implade. Now, these were also original Generation X, well, at least Monette was, an original Generation X team member, the same way that Jubilee was, and, yeah. There are other little side stories in there with some of the other characters, but for the most part, they're kind of forgettable. These are definitely background characters that fall into the background and really don't command any of their presence themselves. You got a kid with like a lot of eyes. I think his name is Jonathan, and really, he's got a bunch of eyes, and the powers, he's getting some different ones, like X-ray vision, or he's seeing on the spectral plane. And that could all be really interesting, but we're so focused on what's going on between the other three stories that we really don't get a lot of time to develop any of the other little side stories that are going on. Roxy has PTSD from her encounter with Implate before, but with her power set, she really feels like the only good thing that she could do with that is be an X-Men. And why isn't she an X-Men? Because the entire story, like, other than these three main points, the entire story is wrapped around this class of teenage mutants that are kind of misfits. They don't really fit anywhere. They're not candidates to be X-Men, even though you have characters like Roxy and Quentin Query, who obviously have the power sets for it. They're not quite what either of the X-Men teams need. And so there's that. But, so they're a band of misfits, kind of not led by Jubilee, but she's supposed to just be teaching them about, you know, being mutants and being comfortable with themselves, because Kitty doesn't know where to put them. And if they don't have a good place to be in the Xavier Institute, then they don't need to be there, is kind of Kitty's whole argument, which is kind of a weird argument for her to be making, just because that's not really in her personality, I think. But I could be wrong. So, without giving, like, too much away, everything really does come to a head. All three main points of the story all conclude together at the end, and it's really interesting. Manette is being controlled by her brother Implate. He is basically using her body as an anchor to the material plane, because he can't exist or either live on it without being an anchor to someone, and Manette's powers actually line up well with his own, and he's able to basically absorb the abilities and life forces of other mutants, which is kind of something Manette can do, sort of, too. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. Generation X wasn't something I was super into when I was younger, so there you go. So there you go. Now, Quentin's story is probably the most interesting, because he really wants to be a part of the Xavier Institute. He really wants to be a part of a team. He's just really pompous because he's got all this power, and he was chosen by the Phoenix to one day be the Phoenix. Not currently right now, but the Phoenix left a shard of itself within him because it saw his potential. And so he's got all these really high opinions about himself, as I guess he should, but he doesn't know how to interact with people, so because of these perceptions that he has about himself. And so every little thing, every little insult really cuts deep to him, and he doesn't know how to deal with that. At one point, he actually just leaves the Institute altogether, because he's like, fine, if you don't want me, I don't want to be here, I don't need to be here, I'm Kid Omega, and I'm going to be the Phoenix one day, and I'm so powerful, etc. And it's really interesting that Jubilee, like I said, this is kind of a parallel story. Jubilee really is fitting in well with everybody. She gets along with people, but people don't really, see the good that she can do, because she's still a vampire. Even with her special amulet to, help curb all her stuff, she is a vampire through and through. And so it's a little like, people see her on a trigger that one day she just might lose it. And it's very interesting, in my opinion. Now, to get into spoiler territory, I would just, if you want to read this, if you don't want any spoilers, I would say jump closer to the end, where we're going to talk about what we're going to be talking about in the upcoming video. Like I said, it's probably going to be a Marvel title. Maybe not. Maybe it will. We'll find out. But we're going to talk about the ending of Generation X, because, as I said, it is canceled. So, this is where that starts, right now. So, the end of the comic is basically where all the three stories meet. Roxy still has her PTSD, but she really works and overcomes it to help protect her classmates and her team members, or yeah, really they're just her classmates, because she's not on a team, from Implay, who still has control of Manette. They've basically shifted, that's what Manette's power set is. She can, like, shift realities a little. They've shifted the Xavier Institute off the material plane, or somebody has. I forget who. Like I said, this is not the greatest comic I've ever read, but it's still one of the ones that I really like. I like the character arcs, I like, the art, but Marvel always has pretty decent art. I guess like I said, I just really like the characters and what they were attempting to do. Anyway, so Manette, or Implate, is trying to absorb all the mutant powers that he can to become absolutely, like, badass and powerful. Gets Hellion, Surge, Armor, like, he gets a really great set, and these misfits don't really have the power capabilities to take him on. You have not only the misfits, but you have Chamber and what's her name? She's another X-Force, not X-Force, X-Generation person, Husk. Her name's Husk. And they're trying to take this really powerful mutant down, but they don't know how. And it all comes kind of ahead with Nathaniel. And his power set is that he gives them the ability to basically, well, he lets himself get absorbed, or his powers get absorbed by Implate, which is basically gives him that telekinetic knowledge of everybody via touch. And so it allows everybody to kind of pull Manette out of Implate, or Implate out of Manette, that separates them. And that's kind of how it ends. It sort of also ends with Jubilee not being a vampire anymore. I mean, it doesn't sort of. That's how it ends. She gets thrown from a window in broad daylight, fire, and, she's going to die. And instead of letting her die, instead of, basically kicking the shit out of Implate and being the hero and finding his acceptance within the group of people like he thinks would happen, he Quentin Query sacrifices his shard of the Phoenix to restore Jubilee's life force. He turns her from a vampire into a mutant and gives her her powers back, the whole nine. She's alive. And that was really cool. I really enjoyed that. I really hope we get to see that mean something here in the future. I don't know. Like I said, they canceled this, and Jubilee is not really a hot ticket item. But, we'll see. In sacrificing his Phoenix shard, he also sacrifices a huge chunk of his powers, and so it would be, I really wish they hadn't canceled this, because it would be really just great to see where they were going to go with these two particular portions of the story. There's a train. Let's wait. Because the train is loud. Gonna blow its horn again. Here in a bit. It's a train. Do 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 do. Okay, I guess it's done with that. So it would have been really interesting to see where they were going to take those 2 points, especially with Nathaniel and Benjamin actually getting together, and I don't know, and Roxy getting over her PTSD. All would have been really interesting and kind of cool to see where they were going with that, but the comic's canceled, and so I'm just hoping to do something with these characters. And that's it. That's my entire review for Generation X. I would say read it. Definitely read it. It has trade paperbacks. I really like the characters. I knew it wasn't going to be like a fighty, explodey kind of Marvel story. And I appreciate that, because not every story needs to be that, even with mutants with amazing abilities. I mean, it does have some of that in there, but it's not the focus like it kind of is in other X-Men tales. So, there you have it. That's it. It's a whole thing. What are we going to be talking about in the midweek video? Probably another Marvel title, but I'm thinking maybe Kim and Kim, Love is a Battlefield. I don't believe we've talked about that yet, and if we haven't, we're probably going to do that. But expect to see probably another Marvel title. But I am hoping for Kim and Kim. I'll have to check my previous videos and what I've got queued up, and yeah, we'll just go from there. But As always, I am Fire Princess Lily, and until next time, enjoy comics, enjoy cartoons, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.